Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? Let me start there, if I could, with Ramczyk. Can you tell us anything more about that? Because it was such an odd situation, right, where he was injured and then just like never came back.
Yeah, honestly, I've been so bombarded with Senior Bowl stuff. The Ramczyk news almost flew under the radar because I've just been focused on coaching searches. But yeah, I mean that did surprise me, and that's something I've honestly been meaning to look more into because I just thought it was a little weird how that happened. I mean, I asked Sean Payton about it a couple times, and he just said he's still working through the initial injury. So I'm not sure if there was some sort of bigger setback or what happened with that. But having both tackles hurt and not really understanding to the extent of which they were hurt was one of the oddest things I've seen in a long time. So the fact that he's had surgery is not surprising. But, you know, I feel like they always call surgery minor surgery or successful surgery. So, well, I guess we'll see. We'll see where that goes. But, yeah, I just thought it was kind of interesting terms. And also that he had the surgery now and not a couple weeks ago. Because a lot of times they get it right after the season's over. But everyone's different. So definitely something to look at going forward.
Surgery's minor when it's somebody else's knee, I guess.
Right, exactly. I don't think any surgery is minor.
Right. Let's talk then about how this week was. So you were in Mobile for a portion of the week. The Senior Bowl was happening while the Saints are trying to conduct coaching search interviews. How standard, Kat, is the way this week played out for the Saints, or is it?
Well, it's been a long time since they've interviewed a head coach of the Senior Bowl. They didn't interview Peyton at the Senior Bowl because he already had the job by then. I'm not sure about Haslett and the timing, but, you know, it could be, you know, decades since they've kind of been in this position looking for a coach during this week. So it was kind of interesting. They interviewed Doug Peterson first back in New Orleans and then did some interviews in Mobile, and then everyone went back to New Orleans, and they're finishing out their interviews this weekend back at home. So, you know, it's just kind of different. Like, for example, Dennis Lauscha was in on the interviews virtually, and, you know, Gail Benson wasn't in on the interviews but was kind of appraised what was happening, and then you had a group of people sitting in with the candidates. So just kind of a different world than 2006, you know, a different team, because Mickey Loomis has said a couple times that people are actually calling him now for this job versus last time where he was trying to basically call other people and beg them to come in for the job. So it's an attractive job. You know, it's a job where people actively want to be, a good situation. So, you know, just kind of unique when you're looking back to the last coaching search.
Kat, let's run through what we know. Doug Peterson interviewed, as you mentioned. He's taken the Jacksonville job, which some thought that maybe Byron Leftwich was holding out for that job. That didn't materialize. So Doug Peterson scratched him off. Does that mean Byron Leftwich is a real candidate in New Orleans?
Well, the last information I heard about Byron Leftwich is that they had requested to speak with him and were kind of still waiting to hear back. And that was the same thing as Bieniemy. They were waiting to hear back. That's why no one really heard about the Bieniemy thing until yesterday. So I don't know if that's changed. I mean, logic would say Byron Leftwich would come in for an interview if Jacksonville's not going to work out. But he also, at this point, might just decide to stay in his position and then kind of try his hand at the next coaching cycle next year. I think it's the oddest thing, the way it all played out. But, you know, it's Jacksonville, so maybe we shouldn't be surprised that it all kind of went a little sideways. But, yeah, it's weird. And he would be the last interview, I think, if he decided to interview with the Saints, and they're certainly interested interested in him. But I don't really know where it stands as of now. It's something I got to find out. But Bieniemy is supposed to be tomorrow, and then I would assume if Byron Leftwich does interview, it would be Sunday or next week.
So if Bieniemy is tomorrow, and that's where I wanted to go next, Kat, what kind of timeline are they working on? I mean, is it plausible to think that the Saints could have a coach by Monday?
Yeah, actually, I do. Bieniemy might push that back a little. I think if Bieniemy had declined their request, then Monday would be more feasible. Now, I'm not saying Monday wouldn't happen, but I think now that they're adding an interview on Saturday, that could push that timeline back. But what you really want is to have a coach by the combine, which is in 3 weeks. And so you want to have a coach way before that so that they can hire their staff. Now, with the Saints, it's a little different because if they hire an in-house candidate, I can see some of those assistants staying on. But either way, whoever's coming in, he's probably going to end up hiring at least a few assistants. And you want those all in place and ready to go so they can all go to the combine together because, that's a really important time to be scouting all the prospective players and your people are talking agents. And, you really all need to be there in Indy together as a staff. So the sooner the better. And I'd be very surprised if at some point next week we don't have some sort of resolution. Probably early in the week, like you said. But I'm just saying, I'm not saying that for certain. I don't want people to say, oh, Catherine said on Monday, so it's going to happen on Monday. But I definitely think it's possible.
Is Brian Flores still a candidate?
I think that's tricky. So when I was at the Senior Bowl and all of that was breaking, this is not news, but a lot of people, a lot of assistants or just coaches around the league, when you go through these, you're out and about, you can hear what people are talking about, you talk to people, and a lot of people think that, that has made his job prospects a lot more difficult. And that's not any new revelation. It's what people have been saying since it happened. But that is the feeling around the, Senior Bowl. And, I haven't, it's not like I've heard that from the Saints. Of course, they'd be wise to not say anything. But what they did tell me is that they were very impressed with his interview, and they spent a lot of time with him. He was the only candidate that got dinner and an interview, as far as I know. So, if they really, really like him, it shouldn't. But I do think it's a much different situation than when they interviewed him because they did not know at the time that lawsuit was going to be filed.
A couple more minutes here. Kat Terrell's our guest. She's on Twitter at @Kat_Terrell. Make sure you're following her on Twitter. Go read her stuff at The Athletic. With the other candidates, Kat, it's a pretty clear line that's drawn, right? You have defensive guys that are sort of in-house or familiar with the Saints. And then you've got a guy like Eric Bieniemy, right, who's kind of an outside guy, who's an offensive guy. And I think Mickey Loomis said it earlier this week. It's these two questions that are sort of it's a chicken or the egg type question, which is difficult to answer. So as best you can tell, what really are they looking for? Are they looking for the offensive guy that's going to be able to bring in the quarterback and evolve the offense, or are they looking for the guy that's just going to maintain the structure as it's been for so long?
I haven't really, talking to, people around the organization, I feel like the quarterback is not a huge point of contention yet. Maybe because they haven't settled on their coach, and that'll come after, but it almost seems like that's not what the candidates are focusing on. Although, that they could be saying that to me. I think, honestly, stability is probably what they're looking for the most. Maybe we all think that because Dennis Allen is generally considered the favorite, but I feel like the organization feels that there are a lot of good things in place right now, and why would you want to go, overturn the apple cart or whatever at this point? Now, that being said, Loomis says Loomis understands that whoever comes in should have the right to hire and fire his own assistants. So I don't think there's any mandate that the assistants stay, but yet if it's an in-house candidate, it's more likely that they will. So I think it's kind of interesting to look, at all directions. But, with the way the league is trending, okay, so take Dennis out of the equation. With the way the league is trending, I feel like you would lean offensively, but for the Saints' particular scenario or whatever they're looking at now, I think they probably favor stability over maybe bringing in an offensive candidate that could, I don't know, I guess rival a Sean Payton type. I don't know. I think it just depends on if someone comes in their interviews and blows them away, honestly. Bieniemy is such a curious candidate. because he's interviewed with so many different organizations, and yet we don't have one prevailing reason as to why he hasn't gotten hired yet. But he continues to be, every year one of the hottest candidates on the market.
It's so strange because it's so rare that a team's hiring a coach after the coach just left on his own volition. Usually you're hiring a coach because your team stunk, and so you're looking for something new, and the Saints are just in a kind of a strange situation. All right, before you go, what was, aside from the Saints looking for a coach, what was the biggest story at the Senior Bowl for the Saints?
That's a good question. I feel like all we've talked about is that the Saints are looking for a coach.
Right.
I feel like practice was such an afterthought. But, it's honestly, it's got to be the quarterback next. I know I just said, candidates may have not been focusing on the quarterback issue that much, but I guarantee you the front office is. Now, I can't tell you who the favorite is to be the quarterback next year. Logic would tell you it's Jameis Winston, but don't count out the Saints in trying to get some, big name free agent quarterback. People keep talking about it and then saying they don't have the money to do it, but I guarantee you, if they find the quarterback that they think is within their range to get, they will move heaven and earth to get that quarterback. Now, I don't know who it is, but I guarantee you that's what we're going to be talking about for the next month once a coach is hired, and that definitely was brought up a lot at the Senior Bowl. So once we get heavy into free agency, they'll definitely, I think, be exploring all their options.
She is Catherine Terrell of The Athletic. We appreciate it, Kat. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
Yep, anytime. You too.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.